Hello and welcome to ARIRANG News Break. Live from Seoul, I'm Han Da-eun. We start with news of yet another provocation by North Korea. The regime has again test-fired a ballistic missile from a submarine in clear defiance of an international ban. The South Korean military says the launch is an armed protest against joint military drills between South Korea and the U.S., which started earlier this week. Let's get the latest from our Kim Hyun-bin, who's standing by at the Ministry of National Defense in Seoul. Hyun-bin.
Good morning. Ministry officials say they tracked the submarine-launched ballistic missile as it traveled some 500 kilometers before dropping into the East Sea. Now, the SABM was fired from a submarine in the waters near the eastern city of Sinpo at around 5:30 a.m. South Korea time. Now, officials added that the missile breached Japan's air defense identification zone by about 80 kilometers. Now, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff says the launch is a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions that ban the North from conducting these kinds of tests. Now, officials believe that the firing was an armed protest against the annual South Korea-U.S. military drill known as Urju Freedom Guardian, which started on Monday. Now, North Korea, which had earlier threatened to retaliate, see the exercise as a rehearsal for a northward invasion. But Seoul and Washington insist the drills are purely defensive in nature. Now, we must also note that this launch comes as the foreign ministers of South Korea, Japan, and China are due for talks in Tokyo. Now, the South Korean military says North Korea has made improvements in terms of its SABM technology compared to previous launches, adding that an SABM that flies more than 300 kilometers can be deemed a success. Now, officials say the military will remain on high alert and is ready to counter any further provocations. Now, North Korea's SABM development poses an extra threat to regional stability and South Korea's national security, as the missiles are practically impossible to detect before launch. The presidential office of Cheongwade held a National Security Council Standing Committee meeting shortly after the launch, led by Security Chief Kim Kwon-jin, to assess the situation and discuss countermeasures. Back to you.
It's alarming that it breached Japan's air defense identification zone, but I guess what's even more alarming is that North Korea appears to be advancing in its missile technologies. Thank you, Hyun-bin, for that. Bring us more analysis later in the day. North Korea's missile launch will add an extra sense of urgency to today's talks in Tokyo between the foreign ministers of South Korea, Japan, and China. The threats posed by Pyongyang will be high on the agenda, but the three sides also have their own thorny issues to deal with. Foreign Ministry correspondent Kwon So-ah is watching the Trilateral talks for us.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se, as well as his Japanese and Chinese counterparts Fumio Kishida and Wang Yi, are expected to see eye to eye on the importance of cooperation in handling North Korea's continual nuclear and missile provocations when they meet in Tokyo on Wednesday. The talks come in the midst of tension in the Northeast Asia region and beyond. China needs countries on its side for the South China Sea dispute. Beijing and Tokyo remain locked in a bitter territorial dispute over a group of islands in the East China Sea, and Seoul and Beijing are at loggerheads over South Korea's decision to deploy a U.S. missile defense system to the Korean peninsula. In what's being seen as a reference to these matters, prior to departing for Tokyo, Minister Yoon told reporters the talks are happening at a very important time. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
North Korea's ambassador to Britain has reportedly been called back to Pyongyang, citing diplomatic sources. A Seoul-based news agency reports that Hyun Hak-bong has been instructed to return to North Korea, and a replacement has been designated. The North is said to be in talks with the British government about the matter. Many believe the measure is to seek accountability for the recent defection to South Korea by Tae Yong-ho, a high-level official at North Korea's mission in London. Ambassador Hyun has served as Pyongyang's representative in Britain for 4.5 years. He has come under the spotlight for comments that the North is ready at any time to counter a U.S. nuclear attack with nuclear weapons of its own. Korea's national Olympic team has arrived back home after the 2016 Rio Olympics. They achieved their goal of finishing in the top 10 of the medal standings, but fell 1 gold short of their 10 gold medal target. Our Shin Se-min is at Incheon International Airport, where the athletes is set to hold a brief press conference. Se-min, the team must have gotten a very warm welcome.
Yes, Town, and the Olympic delegation that arrived some 2 hours ago was welcomed with cheers and hugs. And I don't know if you see behind me, but there is a ceremony taking place that just wrapped up, an official ceremony that's disbanding the entire squad of athletes, staffs, and coaches, and all the delegates who've spent a couple of past weeks in Rio for the Olympics. Now, during the ceremony, we were able to hear the Korea's Minister of Culture, Tourism and Sports, Kim Jong-duk, and the chief of the Korean delegation, Chung Mong-gyul, leading the celebrations and thanking everyone for their stellar efforts in Brazil. Now, Team Korea won a total of 21 medals, 9 golds, 3 silvers, and 9 bronze, landing Korea in 8th spot in the medal standings. Now, that's the 4th consecutive Olympics that Korea has finished in the top 10.
Well, Korea is proud of them for their efforts, regardless of the medal count. And Taemin, the big worry before the Olympics was the Zika virus. We haven't heard anything to suggest any issues on that front so far. Any confirmation on that?
You're right, and we're happy to report that the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that it has confirmed that there has not been any suspected or confirmed cases of Zika from nearly 970 Korean team delegates who've been to Rio. Now, the center says the government and related health authorities will continue to closely monitor the members of the delegation over the next couple of weeks, just to make sure that there are no issues at all. But overall, Tan, it looks like it's been a good, it's looking good, and a lot of them have been safe and sound as they arrived home in Korea, and we're just waiting to see what some of the athletes have to say hereafter.
Thank you, Taemin, for that report. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more analysis on North Korea's latest provocation here on ARIRANG. Thank you for watching.